Hey, part 1. Well, technically it's part 2 since last part was part 0. But it was also part 1. You get what I mean. But anywho, last part. Uh. Kogami, she had just woken up. Yes, that's the ship's name. Hibana. Just cause. But yeah. Oh, but my rope has been halfway go. Oh, Jojo. But anywho. Anywho. So after Deku had knocked her out, he was playing with her hair, she woke up. Anywho, let's go to there. So, he's like, oh, so you were awake. Alright, I'm leaving. And she's like, wait, can you fight me again? He's like, there's no reason. I've already proven that I'm stronger than you. And she's like, fine then, let me use my quirk. He says, fine. And her quirk essentially allows her to multiply her strength. Sort of like how Super Saiyan does. Sorry y'all, I'm going to like a art fair this weekend. And so, gotta do crap. But, yeah. Anywho. So, she comes at him. Nigga dodges. But not all the way, so he puts his knee into her stomach. And she goes up into the air. And it looks like he teleported. All he did was jump. He says, Dragon of Eternity. And says, boom! Punts her down onto the fucking floor. And she hits the mat. And so, and like people, they were watching. Like the lady that runs the underground fights, she was watching. And she was like, oh, another win, huh? Nergigante. And he just goes, yeah. Starting to get a little boring. She says, yeah, it probably is for you. And yeah, by the way, the female UFC, people, shall we call them, they sent a letter for you. So here. He takes the letter from her, and he reads what it says. And it says, hello, to whoever this involves, because they didn't really know his name. And so it's we would like you to fight in the UFC free-for-all tournament, which is something that I'm making up. It's sort of like on like in WWE where there's like a bunch of people. So yeah. So yeah. Sorry. But anyhow. So Deku, he says, send him a letter saying I accept. And she was like, wait, you do realize all of those females will be using their quirks, and the free-for-all is against you, right? He says, yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's not like they can hurt me. And like, Hibana's female friends, they were just like, what is that nigga? Like, excuse me. Not knowing that there was a little girl with white ears with some cheese nibbling on it. Very interested in Deku. Drama. Punchlines and like Saitama. Anywho. Yeah, I am Metachi, only another strong Pakistani. I'm the original, you are a copy. Shadow punches, but here's a good floppy. Sorry. I'm low-key kind of bored. Anyhow. Deku. He's leaving. And then he feels something small bump into his leg, not knowing that the little girl with white hair had did it intentionally. He says, huh? Watch where you're going next time, kid. And she says, I'm not a kid. Just because I'm short doesn't mean anything. Me and every other tall guy in history. You small, you equal child. Like, bruh, let's be honest, you all look like children from our perspective. But anyway. Sorry. And Deku, he's about to leave. Again. And then, female All Might, she comes in and she says, yeah, Nezu, you needed me? And Deku, he looks back and he sees that little girl and he's like, bullshit. Did you hear that voice crack though? he was just sitting there just like, bullshit. No motherfucking way. Like, he was just sitting there just like, what the no. There's no way that's fucking Nezu. But anyhow. And she says, and you, young man. And Deku, he turns back to see Femme All Might just pointing at him. She says, what is your name? And he says, Fatalis. And she's like, And Deku, he's leaving. Finally. And he gets a notification on his phone that his boss needs him to come in because he got a part-time job. And he works at a coffee place. And so he goes to work. He's like, hey boss. And he's just like, oh hi Fatalis. This woman was asking for you. And he looks and he sees Mount Lady, and he's like, what is a pro hero doing with me? Why does... And he's just like, okay. And he walks over here to Mount Lady and he says, yes ma'am, what did you need? And she says, yeah, I just noticed your cute little picture and I was wondering, you want to go out with me? And Deku, he was just sitting here just like, she does realize she's hitting on a 15-year-old, right? Just like looking into her eyes, just like, huh? And then he says, I'm good. And she says, huh? He says, I'm good. And she says, oh, come on, you couldn't resist this. And she, like, pokes out her butt, and he's just like, yeah, no, I'm good. And he says, is that all you need, boss? Or do I need to come in for an actual shift? And he's like, look behind you. And there's just, like, an enlarged fist just coming at Deku. He grabs it, twists it, breaks her arm, wraps both of his legs around it, dislocates her shoulder, kicks out both of her legs from under her, and kicks her in the head. And he says, do not touch me. And like everyone was just looking at how this guy in a barista outfit legit just beat the absolute shit out of the 19th ranked hero. And it was a male. And it was being recorded. And it just so happened to be by a famous person that Nezu follows on YouTube. And Nezu, she saw it and she was like, no motherfucking way. And she says, oh my, head down to Mocho Loco. And she's like, why? Just do it. And so, All Might, she sprints over there and goes into her debuff form. And she said, reason why we had to be here? And she just like, and like All Might, she wasn't paying attention, and like she looks inside. And she sees just Deku just standing over Mount Lady, just menacingly. And she was like, no way. Just thought, you were a copy. And she came in and she was like, what are you doing, young sir? And he's like, she's the one that came at me, so I beat the crap out of her. And the boss, he says, yeah, I'm gonna need you to work an actual shift. He says, huh, why is that? And he like looks outside, sees like 700 different people, and he's just like, okay, yeah, I see. Alright, looks like I'm making extra today. And he says, yep, you get 50% of all profit. And he says, sale is fail. And he says, alright, All Might, or whoever you are, I guess you're All Might, whatever. I have work to do, so if you could not bother me, that would be great. But if you're going to order something, then yeah, you can continue to speak to me. But otherwise, if you don't need anything, I suggest you shoot. And so, at that point, everyone was just double stunned. Like, did this nigga just throw a stun grenade? Like, excuse me? Like, and so, sorry, failed experiment again. But anywho, Deku, he goes ahead. And he was just thinking about using Ishvalda's ability, but he was like, nah. Why would I? Sorry, I was doing something. But anywho. But anyhow, Deku, he goes ahead and he starts making 700 different coffees and cappuccinos and shakes and different things and sweets. He's just working really hard, and like the boss, he's just like, how is he getting everything done so freaking quick? And like the only person that can see, like, they're all after images that he's moving so fast is a girl in the back with pink fluffy hair. Mei Hatsume. And like he uses Ishvalda's ability to grow more limbs and other things to like grab cups of coffee, serve them up, and people just be like, huh, wait, huh? And he even throws latte art in there, and he's just doing like Goku versus Vegeta, just a bunch of different anime stuff, and drawings of people. And like he stops when he finishes everything, and like it's all just like lined up on like this really big tray of gold. that he created with each Volta's ability. Bruh. Why is it so hard to... Yeah, we'll just wait for later. So, anyhow. Deku. Sorry. Anywho. So he passes everything out to everybody. And he takes the golden tray that looks like it's made out of like synthetic gold-ish, like this. But yeah. But anyhow. Deku, he goes ahead. And he decides, alright, I think it's time for me to leave. And he says, there you go, boss. Oh yeah, by the way, there was 4,332 bucks made. I'll only take 1,000. That's all I need. He's like, you sure? He's like, yep. And Deku, he goes to the toy store and gets like a couple of toys for like the younger kids at the orphanage. And then he goes ahead and he grabs like a bunch of like food and stuff for all the other kids, and like some more blankets and like some towels and some like more clothes for everyone, including himself. But the only thing he really got for himself was a blanket and a pair of socks. That's all he got. And he just is like carrying all this stuff on his back, sticking to the shadows using Ishvalda's ability, and created 4 more arms. And he got all the way back to the orphanage. And he said, hey, I'm back. And like all the boys, they were like, big bro and buddy and like stuff like that. And he said, hey, I brought gifts. And they were like, really? And like the little kids, they gathered all around him, and they went over to the tents where they live. And so, and he bought 179 blankets and like sheets and stuff, because that's how many kids there all are. But he got 2 for himself, so I'm excluding those 2. And that was a solid 400 bucks. And then the rest he spent on food and the toys for the littler kids. And he gave the little kids some like toys and like action figures and stuff like that. And he said, here, they're yours. He like smiled at them. And he handed out like all the blankets and stuff. And then Deku. He saw like a stray dog with 3 heads. And by stray with 3 heads, I mean, we all know where this is going. But he essentially has like the armored scales and stuff. And he looks like this, but it's like a puppy form. And this is the... which skin was it from Smite? Because I know it's from Smite, but yeah. Yeah. But anywho. Sorry. I'm cleaning off my bed so I can lie down there and to do this. But anywho. Deku. He grabs it and like the puppy. He looks at the puppy, and the puppy, it has like a broken leg. Deku, using Valhazak's ability to create miasma. He's fine-tuned it to a point where he can make healing stuff. So, he healed it. He says, since you have 3 heads, I'm gonna call you Cerberus. The guard dog of hell. 'Cause that's what most of the kids there call it. But they all look up to Deku. They see him as a big brother, as a leader, as a role model. Even though he's cold for a good reason. Because he's seen so much death and everything. And Cerberus, he starts telepathically speaking to him. He says, "Hey, can I be your pet?" And Deku, he says, "Oh, so this is your quirk." Well, looks like you are gonna be my pet, little buddy. And Cerberus, he says, "How'd you get the red in your hair if your hair was born pure black?" He says, "Oh, it's blood." He's like, "From who?" He says, "From all the people in the orphanage that I used to live in." And they were just like, and Cerberus, he was just like, "Oh, okay. Sorry that you had to go through that, Master." He says, "That's alright, Cerberus. Alright, come on, let's go." He picks up Cerberus and he puts him on his head. And he walks over to his tent on his futon. Because over the years he's bought everyone futons. So now they either have a couch or a bed that they can sleep on. But he makes his and he makes a little bed out of old like shirts and things. He sews them up into like a little bed, and to make it firm, he put a little bit of Ishvalda's like gold, but it's like in a liquidized state, so it feels more like a friggin' waterbed, or like an air mattress. And so Deku, he says, "Good night, Cerberus." And Deku, he locked up his tent using Ishvalda's gold. So that no one can get in. And so he goes ahead and he sleeps, and then in his mindscape he's talking with the other dragons, and they say, "Oh yeah, there's also a new guy." He says, "What do you mean?" And they say, "Meet Zenogre." And this giant ice pup-ish thing just comes out of nowhere. This one, we're gonna go with this. And so he starts working on his abilities with that one, and so he can essentially summon like ice and stuff by using that. But yeah, there's this form, and then there's this one, the male one, not that one. But yeah. And so Nergigante, he says, "Hey kid, why don't you just kill them?" And Deku, he goes, "Kill who?" And he says, "The people that run the orphanage." And Deku, he says, "Every 3 days they supply meals when I camp, so I'm grateful for them." He said, "But you don't have to eat." He says, "I know I don't eat, but it's for the littler kids. And for everyone else, because they need to, or else they'll die." And Nergigante, he says, "You're so cold, you're so kind. How do you work?" He says, "I just do." He's like, I didn't ask for the smartass treatment, now did I? And he says, doesn't matter. Did I ask you for a reply? And he says, you're getting good at this. He says, uh-huh. Well, see ya. As he wakes up, he undoes the gold. He wakes up Cerberus. And he goes ahead, wakes everyone up. And he goes ahead and he rushes towards his job. Realizing from looking at a clock through a window that he's gonna be late for his shift. And he sprints. And he looks and he's like, oh, we're close today. I forgot. And he calls the boss and he said, oh wait, yeah, boss, aren't you on your vacation now? He says, yeah, for a month. If you want, you can run the shop. And Decker, he goes, nah, I was just asking. He's like, okay, well, take care, Fratalis. And he's like, alright, yeah, see you too, boss. And so he goes to his other work, aka the underground fighting place. Aka the UFP. He says, hey, anybody wanna fight me today? And the desk lady, she goes, no. But that MMA fighter girl is here to see you again. He's like, fine. And he walks, chilling with Cerberus on his head. And Cerberus, he's just all the time just like sleeping. He's just like, well, he's pretend sleeping, shall we put it. And she says, hey, and he's just like, why'd you want to bother me now? And she says, because, he says. And he gets a notification on his phone, and he looks down at it, and it's the lady that runs the place, and she says, there's a white-haired lady that's come to fight you. He's just thinking like, okay. Friggin' Ghislaine. How should I put this? Ghislaine is waifu material. Anyhow. But he says, alright, come on. And she says, huh? He says, come on. Since you decided to bother me today, come on. And she went straight. And she went, okay. But, yeah. And so, Deku, he goes and he sees do I have? Eh. Yeah, let's just go with this. He's like, she has white and red hair. Oh yeah. And then like email Endeavor, she just says, so you're this place's strongest. Well, I want you to fight my daughter, okay? And he's just like, eh. And like looks at her. And he's like, oh, Endeavor. And he says, fine. And then he just breathes out and he says, done. And she was like, huh? And Choka, she falls on the ground. And he says, told you. People there are too weak. And then Hibana, she just pops in and she says, no, you're just too strong. And so, Deku, he goes ahead. And decides, sure. And so, he goes ahead, and he says, alright, I have a flight to catch. And she says, oh, so do I. And he says, where? And she says, Island. And he's like, oh, I'm going there too for the UFC tournament fight. And she was like, oh, so am I. He's like, wait, the free-for-all? And she says, yeah, why? He says, oh, well, looks like you're fighting me. Again. And she was like, oh, crap. And so, and Deku, he decides, you know what, I'm gonna look classy. He wears a suit like this, with the gloves, on the night that it's happening. Well, on like the little interview that they have, and they ask him like what his name is, what his like hobbies are, and what his job is, stuff like that. So boring crap. And so they say, by the way, it's 120 female MMA fighters, all using their quirks against you, just so you know. He's like, this won't be very hard. And so Deku, he just rushes. And he just boom rushes these niggas. And then he just backhands, slide, kick, puts his legs on a chick's neck, flips, puts her head into the mat, slides, kicks a nigga's legs out from under her, elbows her face into the ground, and he just pulls a freaking Madara. Just imagine it. Just for a second. Exactly. But anywho, and after that's done, it's just Hibana that's left. And Deku, he's like running towards her, and like he slips on someone's blood. He's like, eh. He slips and like her leg gets kicked out from under her, and like she falls on top of him, and they end up kissing. And Deku, he's heavily blushing, and she's just like freaking out. And Deku, he gets up and he says, That was my first kiss. He walks up to her, hugs her, puts her to sleep. He says, "Alright, that's it, people. I gotta go." Grabs Hibana, touches her nerve, makes her wake up, and she's like, "Huh?" And he says, "Yeah, I made you fall asleep." Anywho. He takes her, and he says, "Do you want to be my girlfriend?" And she was like, "Huh?" He says, "Do you want to be my girlfriend?" And she says, "Yeah, maybe." Cliffhanger. Haha, gotcha, bitch.